were searching for my name today, I saw you standing there. Man, you look different with that silver in your hair. Me, I haven't aged a bit, still all of 21. That's the thing about us spirits, we're forever young at the wall. Here at the wall, we were proud to serve our country when called by Uncle Sam. Then more than a little anxious, then they shipped us off to Nam. Remember all the heat and bugs, days marching through the mud, constant gunfire, smell of death, sight of all that blood. Some gave all. The names carved in this wall, but it's a wall of love, a wall that heals, a wall that touches, helps you feel the faces of more than 50,000 names. Feel the wall be forever changed.
I remember one time we were in a fire support base. Our recon patrol had ambushed a Viet Cong unit, and they were carrying a deer. They brought the deer back. CO asked me to barbecue it. So we made a makeshift barbecue grill and we barbecued the deer. And for a few minutes there, Vietnam wasn't anywhere near. We were just having a nice barbecue. No beer, but we were having a nice barbecue. Unfortunately, 2 days later, we got hit very bad. When the mortar rounds started coming in, we had makeshift bunkers, and of course I was a military intelligence sergeant, so we had a command bunker, and it was in the ground. So I had gone in there with the CO and the other staff, and the battalion surgeon stuck his head in, Dr. Loshes, and he said, "Sam," he said, "I need some help, man." And I thought, you want me to go out there with all those mortar rounds falling? Then I thought, somebody's got to do it. And dodging shrapnel and everything, we were taking the wounded out from their locations and placing the dead in one location. And then we had called in the dust-off helicopters at the medevac. And they came in and we were loading the wounded into the helicopter. And all this time we had rounds coming in. And those young men flying those helicopters, they were great. They were like angels that came out of the sky. Another time, I was flying in a light observation helicopter on a courier mission, and while we were in the air, just me and this young pilot, I overheard on the radio that my recon element was in contact with a pretty good-sized VC and NVA unit. I got in and I interrupted and I said, "This is 2 Romeo, I'm pretty close to that location, you want me to assist?" And they said, "Sure, go ahead." So I told the young pilot, I said, "How much ammo do you have?" And he said, "Well, I only have a half a load." I didn't want to hear that. So I said, "Well, we're going over there and we're going to assist the recon element." We went over there. I had the recon element pop smoke on your left flank so I know what direction you are. We went to work. Well, we expanded all the ammunition that was in the helicopter. We started firing with our M16s and throwing the grenades out at them. Anyway, we got to the next fire support base that we were supposed to make coordination with. The pilot looked at his engine and the cowl on the back of the little jet engine and the LOH had a bullet hole in it, and it missed the main engine maybe about 2 to 3 inches. So if it had hit that engine, we'd have gone down.
I'd been in the Marine Corps for a year when told we were going to Vietnam. We had no idea what Vietnam was, but they told us we'd be in a conflict. In 3 months, we would kick their butt. We didn't have any experience as far as being in combat. We had very few casualties at first. I can't remember too much on that. I guess I don't want to. I came home after 13 months, and yeah, I went into the new unit. We started training the new unit, mostly draftees. I had no idea they were drafted. Once we were out a couple of days at sea, the captain of the ship says, "This ship is going to Vietnam." There was 5 of us sergeants, and we were all Vietnam veterans, and we were told that we didn't have to go back again. Out of the 5, 2 of us decided to go with a platoon to Vietnam. I said, somebody's got to take over these guys. It was a nightmare. We got hit. The people that I took over got hit. Most of them got wounded. And I had just gotten there, and I was all scared. And I said, what the hell did I do, man? I should have stayed with the other guys in Okinawa. I didn't expect that it was a Sunday when they tried to overrun us. They did overrun us. About 2 weeks before I was supposed to go home, I was sent out on a combat operation. We had a lot of casualties. I don't want to get into that. It was Operation Mamluk Thrust. I survived. I came back. They flew me to El Toro Marine Corps Station in California. I was there for a couple of days, and I got out of the Marine Corps. I just wanted to go home. I was sick of. I didn't want to be fighting anymore. I didn't want to kill anyone. I went home. It took about 3 years for me to get myself together. Of course, when I went home, I couldn't eat hot food. I was used to eating sea rations. We probably ate once a day, drank a lot of water. I lost about 30 pounds. And when I went home, it took me a long time to recover, mostly mentally. I'm very fortunate to be alive. I thank God that I didn't die.
I too was supposed to go to Vietnam, but ended up in South Korea at the last minute and worked with the Army Security Agency. We were part of the NSA out of Washington, flying intelligence missions and collecting intelligence from North Korea. While I was in the military, I was exposed to Agent Orange. As a result, I ended up with prostate cancer. I had one harrowing experience while we were flying a winter mission over the mountainous regions in South Korea. The pilot suddenly had increased engine temperature and dropped down to just within a few feet of the snow-covered mountain and wanted me to let him know if it was okay to land. I jumped out of the helicopter. At the same time he took off, and not wanting to be left on a mountaintop in South Korea, I jumped up, grabbed the skid as we were leaving, and probably 200 feet off the ground as I was slowly inching my way back into the helicopter. So that was a very scary time. I easily could have been either left on a mountaintop in South Korea and never found again, or fallen from 200-300 feet.
Graduated from high school in 1960. Didn't know what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So my neighbor across the street walked out one Saturday morning and said, "What do you want to do today?" And I said, "Let's go join the Air Force." One of the funny stories, and I used to work the midnight shift. About 4 o'clock in the morning, I could not find a crew chief to sign off the work order. The chief of maintenance was a colonel, and he always called on the phone and wanted to know if the airplane was OR. And I told him yes, and he said, "Who signed off the work order?" And I said, "Well, Colonel, the name looks like Algernon Anderfogel." And so the OJT that I was working with that night said, "You know, you're going to be in trouble because he's going to come in at 8 o'clock in the morning and want to see that work order." So I scribbled Algernon Anderfogel on it. About 25 years later, my wife and I were putting together a reunion. The last person that I found was working at Wade's Medical Equipment in Houston, Texas. And I called on the phone one morning and I asked the girl that answered the phone if I could speak to him, and she said, "Well, he's in a meeting." And I said, "The name is Algernon Anderfogel." A few seconds later, he answers the phone and he said, "This is Ray Davis. It's got to be you. Nobody else would do that." So, you know, that's just some of the things that we did when I was in the service. The days sometimes are long, but you do things to lighten them up.
This all happened in 22 years in the military. My body decayed real bad. And rough life in the military. Yeah, and I'd have knee replaced, back to dentist, and delaying more treatment again. Wasn't bad. Then knee turns this way, that way. And then I have to see him again with a serious problem. And today kind of really put a happy face on my face with a fine group of people like this. A month ago, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. I don't know if their lifespan is, they can't tell me. But being with you all was a fine pleasure. I had a lot of fun, took a lot of stress off of me. And I don't care how long I go to therapy this time, I'll always be here with you guys.
When I got levied upon, the chaplain from the battalion came and talked to me, and he says, "You don't have to go to Vietnam, you know. We can get you a hardship discharge, being that you're the sole surviving son." Called my mom, and I told her that I was levied upon to go to Vietnam. "You're going to do it, aren't you?" I said, "No, Mom." I said, "I'm not going to do it." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I got to go. All my friends are going." I said, "So I got to go." We got there, and they just assigned us to a tent because they didn't even give us blankets or anything. They said in the morning, and it wasn't that cold. So we get hit. There was a firefight. We didn't have any weapons. I mean, you know, and there was 5 of us in there, and I was so scared. I remember that I was laying on the cot. It was a canvas cot, and I could feel myself trembling. I couldn't even hear it. I was so scared, and that was the first time I was really scared. And we moved to July, Phubai area, but I had to stay 30 days behind the unit. They only gave us some sea rations. It was bad. I mean, I felt, you know, it was scary also. We did the 30 days, turned over the base camp to the other unit, and we went to the Saigon River, to the China Sea. We got there, and that's when the Tet Offense of '68 happened. And we survived that. They sent me home. I remember the pilot circles around and says, "Look, one last time that you see Vietnam." And I remember crying because I was leaving all my friends behind. There was no big welcome home parties. I mean, parades or people waiting for you. People at the airport gave you bad looks. I mean, like if they hated us. And, you know, you just wanted to get home. And when I got home, the only people waiting there was my girlfriend, my mother, my grandmother, my sister, my brother-in-law. But I made it home, and I'm happy. That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
When we finally got the orders saying we could go back home, they were looking for my body, so you made the trip alone. Came back to a country couldn't comprehend how so many boys that left returned as messed up men who served with all.
Start with being an innocent 17, 18-year-old kid in Idaho and thinking, well, you know, I'm going to go serve my country, so you join the Navy. Our drill instructor, he told us, he said, probably 50% of you are not coming home. Basically, in Vietnam, we were fighting for each other. We weren't fighting to win a war. We fought to win battles, but basically we were fighting to keep each other alive. It was survival. I don't think it was wrong that we went. We were called to do our duty, and we followed orders. I think the main purpose of the Vietnam conflict was wrong. I think it was a political thing. In my 13-month tour over there, I never saw anybody kill a baby or kill anybody that wasn't actually the enemy. Now, they tied sexual charges to ladies and sent them up against your wire, and they were suicide bombers. I did see some of those people get shot. I got to hate the word corpsing up. If you heard that somebody was shot or blown up, you didn't know what you were going to find when you got there or when you crawled up to a person. You had no idea what their leg might be blown off, their arm, they might be gut shot. You just didn't know. Quezon wasn't a very good place. It was ugly. Probably looked like the beach at Normandy, only it was a hill in Vietnam. It's not an easy thing to talk about, but I believe that young people need to know that the young men that went to Vietnam and fought, they went there and fought valiantly. I can honestly say that the young men that fought and died next to me were gallant warriors. And I'm sure they're all in heaven. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't want to be there with them. I'm alive because of a man that got the Medal of Honor. He actually fell down and covered a grenade 4 feet away from me. and was killed when it exploded. You can't get the taste of that flesh out of your mouth. You can still feel it in your nose and your eyes and it's just, nobody can imagine how horrible that is. I mean, you'd live with that every day, day after day after day. People say, well, it's been 50-some years. I said, no, it was last night. Last night you wake up in the middle of the night hollering, help me, and you can't move. And your significant other's standing way off poking you. So no, it never leaves. You don't get over it. For 30 years I didn't. I thought the rest of the world was messed up and I was okay. But it was just the other way around. In '99 I was suicidal and my buddy told me, he said, if you don't go to the hospital, he says, I'll kill you myself. So that's when I started getting help. I am so grateful to have gone on this flight. Having people cheer and clap, how they smiled, it was wonderful. That's probably the best thing. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. I have a little cardboard welcome home sign that I got when we got back here and got off the bus. These are tears of joy.
Feel the wall be forever changed. Feel the wall be forever changed.